Syracuse football does not have a 4 or 5-star recruit in its class of 2025. Is it a big deal or no big deal? You guys voted.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, big deal or no big deal that Syracuse football in its class of 2025 does not have a 4 or 5-star recruit so far, and you guys voted. It was a very, very tight race this week. There were a total of 276 votes, and the winner was big deal at just about 53% of you guys. So a small majority of you guys believe that it is a big deal that Syracuse football does not have a 4 or 5-star recruit in its class of 2025. However, I disagree with the majority of you guys. I do not think it is a big deal that Syracuse football does not have a 4 or 5-star recruit, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, on 24/7 Sports, Syracuse's 2025 class ranks 31st in the country. They're 31st in the country. I would say that is pretty good. Despite not having a 4 or 5-star recruit, they are ranked 31st in the country. I mean, that's better than what Syracuse football has been in recruiting in about 2 decades. You can go back, you can find it, go through the rankings. I'm telling you, it's about 2 decades since Syracuse football has been in that realm of recruiting, which is 31st. So that's already pretty good, right? It's 2 decades, right? Syracuse also has 27 total commits so far in the class of 2025. So a lot of early commits to the Orange. That is second in the country. The only team that has more recruits than Syracuse football is Rutgers. This, of course, about the class of 2025. Rutgers has 28 total commits, and they have 6 4-star recruits of those 28. So they right now have the 14th best recruiting class in the country. But still, Syracuse football has the second most commits. So they are getting volume, which is super duper important. I've said before here on this podcast that you got to get volume when it comes to recruiting. You just have to. In football, I should say. In football, you need the volume. In basketball, you don't need volume. Especially with the transfer portal, you don't need volume. You just need 1, 2, maybe 3 really, really strong players, right? Donnie Freeman and Elijah Moore is a very good recruiting class. It's only 2. If they got, let's say, only 1 player and it was the number 1 player in the country, like Cooper Flagg, that would be one of the best recruiting classes in the nation. That's just how basketball works. But in football, you need the volume. So it's good that Syracuse football has the volume, and why I don't think it's a big deal that they don't have a 4 and a 5-star yet. Just a fun fact for you guys as well. Syracuse is the only school ranked in the top 40 in recruiting in the class of 2025 without a 4 or a 5-star. Very, very, very interesting that they are the only one without one. It's because they have that huge volume. Volume is very, very important. So I am not concerned. I do not think it is a big deal right now. It's still early in the process. And coming up, I'm going to explain more reasons why I am not worried that Syracuse does not have a 4 or 5-star recruit. I do not think it is a big deal yet. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as this playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long in Syracuse football. If you're itching for it just like I am, well, the odds came out for Syracuse's first game against Ohio, which is in August, late August. Syracuse is a 15.5-point favorite to get to the W and get to 1-0 on the season. You think the Orange can cover? Well, go bet it right now on FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. On this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, big deal or no big deal that Syracuse football in its class of 2025 does not have a 4 or 5 star in it. I disagree with the slight majority of you. It was about 53% of you guys said that it was a big deal. I disagree. I do not think it is a big deal that Syracuse doesn't have a 4 or 5 star in its class of 2025. I gave you guys some reasons. I told you guys that they're ranked 31st in the country. They had the second most total commits in the country. They are also now still in the running for CJ May, a 4-star edge. He's making his decision on July 13th. The other schools that are involved besides Syracuse are Louisville, Washington, and Auburn. But there might be a chance that Syracuse can land CJ May. I wouldn't say never on that one. Winston Watkins is another name to keep your eye on. He's a Rivals 5-star wide receiver. He just released his top 16, and I know that's a lot of schools, but Syracuse did make the cut, and I believe they've had Winston Watkins on campus for a visit, and he might have been there for the spring game as well. So keep your eye on Winston Watkins. There's also plenty of offers that Syracuse has made in the class of 2025 to 4 and 5-star recruits. So we'll have to see if they can actually get some of these players on campus or at least get them relatively interested, right? You got to try to build a relationship with these kids. I also have mentioned in the past how I think because Fran Brown and his staff got a late start to the class of 2025, it has slightly impacted the recruiting for them, especially with these elite players. Like, for the elite players, you got to get in as soon as you possibly can. That's why you're seeing some big-time recruits in the class of 2026, but not as much in the class of 2025. But I'm not worried. They still have the second most total commits in the country, and they're 31st in the nation, which is pretty solid. Also, another reason why this is not a big deal, keep in mind that these commits right now are not binding. These are not binding contracts that they have signed yet. That cannot happen until, at minimum, the early signing period, which is on December 4th. Now, why is that significant? Why is it important that I'm telling you guys that these commitments are not binding? It's pretty simple. Players can change their minds. They can change their minds. It happens all the time. Let's say Syracuse football in 2024 has a big season. They win 8, 9, maybe even 10 regular season games. And by the way, we're going to know just how good they are by December 4th. So let's say Syracuse football is doing really well. They're doing really well by December 4th. That could significantly impact recruiting in a positive way in the class of 2025. It also works in reverse. Like, if Syracuse football is not doing well by December 4th, then it could negatively impact recruiting. Players can change their minds. Fran Brown and his staff have proven they are excellent recruiters. They are excellent recruiters, and they have not coached a game together yet. So imagine if Syracuse starts winning and winning bigger than what they have done in the past so far. It can impact recruiting in a positive way, and you can get these kids to potentially flip their decisions. You can get them to flip on signing day. It's highly possible. It happens to every single program in the country. Every single program, they can have a guy for months, and then he decides to flip his commitment. And it can work the other way around. So the important thing to do right now, if you're Syracuse football, is even if a 4 or 5 star, or even a 3-star for that matter, any player that you like that went to a different school, you have to keep in touch with them. You have to keep them on your radar because, hey, they're not binding yet. It's not really cheating because they're not binding. So these guys have given their verbal word, but they have not signed pen to paper. So therefore, you got to keep in touch, and hopefully you can win games and you can get these elite players to actually flip to your school. They are also still in the running, so you never quite know where it's going to go. It's still early. So overall, I do not think it is a big deal that Syracuse doesn't have a 4 or a 5-star recruit. So that is it for this week's Poll Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. A reminder, you can vote for Poll Fridays every single week. I post the question on Monday on Twitter and on YouTube. The Twitter handle's in the description below. It's at @LO_Syracuse. That's where you can go and vote as well on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And everyone, take care.